right, today we are jumping headfirst into Worldcoin. And let me tell you, it's easily one of the most ambitious and, yeah, one of the most controversial projects in all of crypto. It's this wild mix of digital identity, biometrics, AI, and blockchain, all with one massive goal: to figure out a way for you to prove you're human online. So let's break down what Worldcoin is, how it's supposed to work, the incredible promise behind it, and the serious risks that have got everybody talking.
So let's just start with a simple question that's getting way more complicated by the day. How do you actually prove that you're human when you're on the internet? I mean, really think about it for a second.
You know, for the longest time, just clicking a few boxes to prove you're not a robot was enough. But now, the internet is absolutely flooded with super sophisticated AI bots and AI-generated content. That line between what's real and what a machine made up is just blurring faster than we can keep up. And honestly, that creates a huge trust problem for every single one of us.
And that brings us perfectly to our first big topic here: the internet's human problem. And this isn't some niche techie issue anymore. It's becoming a fundamental challenge to the way we all live our lives online.
So here's the bottom line. Being able to tell a real person from a bot, it affects pretty much everything. We're talking about online security, where bots are used for all sorts of fraud. We're talking about fairness, like in online voting or when companies give out rewards. And we're even talking about basic communication, just knowing you're actually talking to another person and not some clever machine.
So how in the world do you solve a problem that big? Well, this is where Worldcoin steps into the ring with a very direct and, what a lot of people would call a pretty radical solution.
At the very heart of their project is something they call a world ID. And the whole idea is to give anybody on the planet a digital ID that does just one simple thing. It proves you are a unique human. Now, the really key part, and what makes this so fascinating, is that it's designed to do this without revealing who you are. It's proof of personhood, not proof of your personal identity. So how does it actually work? Well, it's basically a three-step process. First, you have to find one of these kind of futuristic-looking silver balls, called the orb, and you let it scan your iris. Second, that scan is used to generate your unique and private world ID. And third, you can now use that ID to prove you're a real person in any app or online service that hooks into the system.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, especially with the whole privacy angle. Worldcoin is very clear that they don't actually store the picture of your eye. Instead, the orb creates what's called a cryptographic hash. You can think of it like a totally unique mathematical fingerprint that's made from the pattern of your iris. That's the thing they use to prove you're a unique person who hasn't already signed up.
Okay, so if this whole thing works the way they say it will, what could that actually mean for the future of the internet? Let's talk about the big, optimistic vision behind Worldcoin. We're talking about the promise of a bot-free web. And the difference it could make is, well, it's night and day. On one side, you've got the web we live with today, just constantly battling spam, dealing with fraud, and seeing systems get manipulated by bots. But on the other side, you can see the potential: a world with truly fair airdrops, governance systems where it's actually one person, one vote, and online communities where you know for a fact you're talking to another human being.
And the real-world applications here are pretty compelling. I mean, imagine logging into your apps with your World ID, instantly proving you're human, and maybe skipping passwords altogether. Or think about stopping someone from creating thousands of fake social media accounts. For Web3 and online organizations, this kind of thing could become a fundamental piece of the infrastructure.
Okay, but for every beautiful, utopian promise, there's always a potential downside. And Worldcoin is absolutely surrounded by major controversy. This brings us to the really serious concerns about privacy and control, because the stakes here get incredibly high.
The criticisms are sharp, and they are powerful. First off, you're using highly sensitive biometric data. I mean, an iris scan isn't like a password. You can never, ever change it. Then there's the question, what happens if that data gets leaked or abused? And that risk gets even bigger when you realize there's centralized control over the orb hardware itself, the device collecting all this data. So, as you might expect, regulators all over the world have started to take notice, with several countries kicking off investigations or even blocking the project entirely.
So this right here, this is the fundamental tension at the very heart of Worldcoin. Is it a universal digital passport for the internet that's going to unlock a better, more human experience for all of us? Or is it a dystopian nightmare in the making, creating the world's largest and maybe most dangerous centralized biometric database? Both of these stories are incredibly powerful, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
And this question really gets to the heart of the problem, both technically and philosophically. For a project that says it wants to be a decentralized, global public utility, the entire system relies on a physical device to get people signed up. So, who makes the orb? Who decides where they go? The company that controls the hardware has immense power over the whole network, and critics say that's a huge single point of failure and a massive target for hackers and governments alike.
So, with all of that in mind, the incredible promise and the very serious peril, what does the future actually hold? I mean, could there be an orb scan in your future? Let's run through a few of the possible scenarios.
In the absolute best-case scenario, Worldcoin figures out the privacy concerns and gets past all the regulatory hurdles. It succeeds and becomes the global standard for proving you're human online, creating this foundational trust layer that just makes the entire internet safer and fairer for everybody. A more moderate and maybe more realistic outcome is that Worldcoin finds its place, but never really achieves that mass global adoption it's aiming for. It becomes a really valuable but pretty niche tool used mostly inside the crypto world for things like ensuring fair airdrops or making Web3 logins more secure.
And then, of course, there's the worst-case scenario. The privacy concerns just become too much for the public to stomach. Regulators clamp down hard, and the project is forced to shut down. In that future, Worldcoin just becomes a cautionary tale, a big, failed experiment about the dangers of mixing biometrics with global ambition.
And so we end right back where we started, with a pretty direct question for you. Knowing the potential for a better, more trustworthy internet, but also understanding the immense risks to your privacy and the concerns about control, would you scan your eye for a digital ID? It's a question we might all have to answer a lot sooner than we think.